Welcome to this edition of Running Back by Committee here on Fantasy Focus, brought to you by the Original Hooters. I'm Derek Tate alongside Matt Bucks and Ryan Levy as we break down the backfield there in the Windy City for the Chicago Bears heading into the 2020 NFL season. And boy, what a shit fest this was last season, because a lot of folks were very high on David Montgomery for good reason. I really liked what he did at the University of Iowa State. However, the former Cyclone got off to a bit of a slow start, and really the Bears offense was inconsistent all season. There was issues up front, issues under center. There were issues with play calling from Matt Nagy. Issues can just be the one label that you stamp on the Chicago Bears offense. But let's move forward to 2020. So they bring in Nick Foles. They trade for him from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's familiar with this Matt Nagy system to push Mitchell Trubisky for an open competition under center. So, Bucky, throw it to you first here with the Chicago Bears. David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen are both pretty nice little draft day buys, according to average draft position. Which one is, one, the back to own, and two, how do you see Montgomery's role kind of expanding in 2020?
Well, I want to comment first on what you said about this being a shit fest last year. I'm familiar with Chicago shit fest, but usually it's involving a Chicago beef that has a whole hell of a lot of hot peppers on it, and it's not usually the Chicago Bears backfield. However, to comment on the back to own, I'm actually going to be the contrarian here. I think Tariq Cohen's the back to own. In a PPR format, the value you get on Tariq Cohen is absolutely insane. 79 receptions last year, boys. And I don't look for that number to go down. It's gone up every year he's been in the league. I believe he had 71 in 2018, up to 79 last year. Now, sure, there's always going to be an absolute ceiling there. I'd say around 85. But I really think he's going to fit into that little piece right there. Tariq Cohen, for me, is the back to own. Montgomery did not show me enough last year. I think he's a talented fella, but I'm not going to draft him. Not where he's going. I'm going to snag Tariq Cohen late because I believe in the player that is Tariq Cohen, and I love the way that Nagy gets him consistently involved in the passing game.
I think in terms of this division, if you look at the NFC North, the most fantasy value in 2020 to me comes from this division. If you look at ADP, Monty's at 407. And Cohen's at 809. So I'm with Bucky. There's certainly more value in Cohen. And if you look at last year, Cohen was the 27th ranked PPR back, and Montgomery ended up at 24. So relatively the same. And to get him 4 rounds later, the value to me is certainly better on Cohen. But I am very bullish on this backfield for this year. I think this team is going to be better. I think ultimately Foles is going to win this job. And I think they're a better football team with him under center. And to get a guy like Montgomery in the 4th round, I think he has 2nd round ROI. I'm not crazy for thinking that, in my opinion.
You're kind of all over the map right now.
No, I think that's realistic. If I believed in him last year and he still finished at 24, and like you said, they really weren't a good football team, I think they're going to go back to what made them a good team before, meaning a couple years ago when it was good defense and they were running the ball. Last year, they seemed to get away from that for whatever reason. And if Nagy wants his job, he's got to get his shit together there in Chicago. There's no doubt about it.
You know, I really liked what I saw as far as their commitment to trying to run the football towards the back half, the latter half of the season. That's why I feel, Bucky, I understand where you're coming from when it comes to pure PPR numbers and floor as far as a pass catching back. Cohen is the safer bet and the better ADP buy. But if there's any upside to be had in this Bears offense, I do think it's still David Montgomery, even though I understand it was a rough season last year. And, you know, Montgomery kind of uncharacteristically put the ball on the floor more than I thought that he would, which doesn't help matters. But they also just flat out, there were just some games where Matt Nagy decided to just flat out not run the football. I mean, there was one game against the New Orleans Saints where Montgomery saw 2 carries. Like 2, inexplicably. And this is with a defense that, they weren't the world beater that they were in 2018, but this is still a top defense in the National Football League when healthy. And certainly if they get back to form, they should be running the football more to play into the defense's hands, shorten the game, but that's just not Matt Nagy's style. But I still was encouraged by what I saw from David Montgomery's involvement in the passing game. He still caught 25 passes, even though Cohen was on the field a lot. I mean, you see his snap count. Normally he saw more than 50% of the snap count out of the backfield, but they also moved him all over the formation as kind of a weapon, not just a pure running back. There was plenty of times where him and Montgomery were both on the field at the same time. I think they both are good ADP buys. I'm high on both of them, with Montgomery, his price tag being a little bit higher, but he's going to see more total touches. And certainly if this offense does see it, just consistent play under center, more scoring opportunities, more looks inside the 5 for David Montgomery.
Look, I know we talked about Minnesota last episode, right? And Kyle saying Cohen is greater than Madison. I agree. I think the only way I'm taking Madison ahead of Cohen is if I have Dalvin Cook. That's the reason I was saying that, because to me, Cook is still a risky play because of the contract and the potential health issues. So, but in PPR, I like Cohen a lot in the 8th round, and I love Montgomery in the 4th round. I don't think it's that far-fetched to think he could return 2nd or 3rd round value.
It's not that far-fetched to think that he can get there. I just think 2nd round value, you're talking like a top 10 running back. I don't know if I see him getting inside the top 10. I mean, I think best case scenario, you probably get maybe a top 15 season, top 12. With that split that they do have, Cohen is still going to be involved. Cohen is still going to get his obligatory 50 to 100 carries out of this offense. And they still have, as of right now, if Mitchell Trubisky holds on to the starting gig, they still have a lot of RPO schemes where Trubisky just holds the ball, or he's so the thing that probably is safe for Cohen, though, Kyle Senra, he saw 104 targets. That's because Mitchell Trubisky doesn't trust what he sees on the football field, and you could tell. So what's the one thing that you can do? Check it down to a running back. That's where you're going to see plenty of a high PPR floor for Tariq Cohen. So he's the safer play. Of course, the upside definitely goes more so for David Montgomery. Again, if this offense gets Nick Foles under center and they're at least consistently productive, then I see the upside for David Montgomery being like a top 15 back.
Yeah, but which BDN are we getting?
Right.
No, we getting MDM? We getting MDN or are we getting BDN?
I thought it was Big Phallus, Nick.
Oh, it is BPN. You're right.
I think
it's LPN, large phallus.
Large phallus. I thought phallus. You're right. When we brought it up on a previous episode, I thought that phallus was spelled with an F, and I didn't know that it was a P.
LFN.
I definitely think Foles wins this job, and yeah, Kyle. I also saw you said Phil Lindsay's better handcuff than Madison. To me, Phil Lindsay has standalone value anyway.
Not a handcuff, no.
Yeah,
and I don't think Cohen is a handcuff either. I think Cohen is a standalone.
I agree.
Look, Sabatino, I agree with you. Montgomery is the best back there in terms of traditional running backs. The reason I am going to pass on David Montgomery is because, number one, he's not that efficient of a runner. He's good, but he's not all that efficient. Tate, you're shaking your head. You watch the game film. I don't always love what I see, and that's usually the case.
Well, I also didn't like what I saw from the offensive line on a consistent basis last year.
Very correct. But I love what I see out of Tariq Cohen in terms of standalone value later in the draft. I think you're just getting a good utility player to pop in your flex spot whenever you need him.
This is kind of the argument that I was kind of getting at, Levy, when it came to Alexander Mattison and Tariq Cohen. Sure. Standalone value in a PPR format, who is the safer bet to return on value? It's 100% Tariq Cohen.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Madison is a complete dart throw, lottery ticket. That's what I was kind of getting at and I'm not, of course, that's a different question. We didn't talk about that as far as a direct comparison, but Cohen is one of the better, not sexy PPR players that you can get at a bargain. I love him in zero running back type of draft strategies. If you are going to go heavy with maybe Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, if you want to go tight end quarterback early, and I really don't like going wide receiver early this year for fantasy drafts. There's just so much value at wide receiver in the middle rounds. But if you do decide to go, you find someone like Michael Thomas just falls in your lap at the back end of the first round in a running back heavy draft, and you just keep finding other values at other positions to give you that positional advantage, Cohen is one of those guys I want to target in the middle rounds, the back half of the middle rounds, to get on my squad, because I know he's going to be there as a weekly target type player, like a poor man's James White.
Well, here's how the game has kind of evolved. Think back 3 years ago. Theo Riddick is a guy who's getting picked up all over the board. Tariq Cohen blows Theo Riddick's talent out of the water.
No doubt.
I really like Riddick's route running ability, and I'm not saying Cohen's definitely a more explosive player, but Riddick I really liked Riddick's ability to be able to run routes and catch the football, and he didn't really put the ball on the floor very much. Cohen's had that issue in the past, but I get where you're going with that comparison. He is a great PPR buy. Great PPR buy.
He was a wide receiver in college, Theo Riddick, so you kind of understand why, but I feel like when people want to take a stab on a running back here in Chicago, for me, it's Tariq Cohen. I'm going to stand by that.
Is there anybody else as far as any other running back? Hopefully we don't see Matt Nagy give a wide receiver a 3rd and 1 carry like they did with Cordero Patterson at moments last year. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. Give the ball to David Montgomery. I think he is still a very good player. And we should see good production out of this Bears backfield, which you're not overpaying on draft day. As of right now, what is it, Levy? Montgomery, as far as his ADP at the current moment?
407 and Cohen at 809. So I'm willing to take both these guys at their current ADP, and I think Monty will fall even further. 516 and 703 in a pair of best ball eliminators, Kyle said. So, I mean, those spots, I love Montgomery. I think the value is huge there.
I just think that the hate's gone a little bit too far on this offense. Look, I get it. I don't expect them to finish as a top 10 offense, but to think that they couldn't sneak inside the top 15 or top 20 as far as whether it be scoring offense or, yardage output, Matt Nagy is not a bad offensive-minded coach. He just gets in his own way as a play caller, and it doesn't help when you have Mitchell Trubisky, who has no confidence whatsoever, making it almost impossible to predict on a week-to-week basis which Mitch you're going to get.
If the Bears are getting into the playoffs this year, it needs to be through the run game and the defense. So if Nagy wants to keep his job, he'll figure out a way for both of these guys to be productive, in my opinion.
There you go. So that'll do it for this episode of Running Back by Committee here on Fantasy Focus, brought to you by the Original Hooters. Go ahead and sound off in the comments. Who's the better buy out of this backfield on draft day? Is it David Montgomery or Tariq Cohen? If there's another running back you think could contribute there in the Windy City, go ahead and sound off in the comments as well. If you have not yet done so, and this is your first time coming across our channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell so you don't miss any of our videos that we drop on a weekly basis for fantasy football heading into the 2020 NFL season. Until next time, and just in a couple of moments, we're going to finish up our Running Back by Committee series as we talk about the Detroit Lions in the Motor City. Stay tuned, and until next time, later, says the Tater.
See you, Derek.
See ya.
See you, Ryan.